Hey Broadway World, it's me, Katie Lynch, here at the meet and greet of the highly anticipated Broadway play, The Great Society, the follow-up to the Pulitzer Prize-winning play All the Way about Lyndon B. Johnson. We got to talk to some of the cast and creative about what all this exciting talk is about.
This is an amazing, hold on to your hats, roller coaster ride through 1964 to 1968. One of the most contentious, passionate, controversial times this country has ever experienced. This is about power, how power gets won, and how power gets lost, and the cost.
Well, Robert and I have been working on plays about LBJ for almost a decade now. And so this is really the cap of that. This is the pinnacle of that experience, to be doing the Great Society in New York with this extraordinary cast, and to everything that we've learned over multiple performances, multiple productions around the country, and to bring all of that to bear and to make this as special as we can. It's absolutely thrilling as a director.
Bill and I have always wanted to tell this, and from the moment that All the Way won the Tony Award, in fact, we got on a plane the next morning and flew back to Ashland to begin work on this. And for us, it was really important to get it right, to get this right. So we have taken our time working on the text and the production and finding the right actor. And in Brian Cox, we have found the right actor in spades. This is a performance that people are going to talk about for years to come. Brian Cox is phenomenal.
It's daunting. It's huge. It's a big, big task because he's such an amazing man and such a conflicted man. You know, he was a man of great energy, a man of vision, but flawed, especially when it came to the whole business of Vietnam. But that's also in the tradition of the insularity of America and their understanding of how things happen in the rest of the world. And I think that Johnson was much a victim of that as anybody else. But in terms of the Great Society, in terms of civil rights, voting rights, Medicare, Medicaid, he was amazing. It is his domestic programs which were quite extraordinary, and particularly at that time when the civil rights marches were happening, Martin Luther King, you know, it was a very, very hot time, and he sort of rode it out extraordinarily well. But the Achilles heel was Vietnam.
For me, it feels like I couldn't have asked for a better person to try and portray, because I grew up looking up to him, and especially in my community where I'm from, it's Jesus, Martin Luther King Jr., Barack Obama. So it's no pressure, but tons and tons, but it's a privilege and an honor to try and portray someone who's done so much for civil rights and human rights.
And you hit it on the head. What's it like working on a play dealing with civil rights in this time?
Some of it you carry into the room with today's political climate and the privileges that are being stripped away. And some of it you have to leave at the door because it's about what actually was happening then, but it's all in flux right now.
I read All the Way, but so I know that much about it. I didn't see it. But my father was in the Johnson administration, and so many of the themes of it were things that I was familiar with, but also needed to relearn because I was a little boy, you know. But my dad was the first Undersecretary of Housing and Urban Development, so which was part of the Great Society. A department created it for the Great Society, and so that is my understanding. So revisiting this political time, which I sort of saw through my father's eyes, is very exciting to me.
Well, of course, I knew All the Way, but more important than that, I mean, you know, this may be a history play, but I remember it. You know, I was there. I was young. I was a youth in the '60s, but you know, this was my adolescence and my youth. So I remember these things. I mean, it isn't right that something that I remember so vividly could be a history play, but you know, that's the way it goes. So it's thrilling for me to step back into this period that was such a formative one for me, you know, and to play a character with such goodwill and such moral passion.
Well, it's been challenging, as it should be. You know, and we have you've seen the actors on our cast list. It's an incredible group. But I think one thing that we can speak to is the character of the company. You know, even taking on some of these issues, we've had to have difficult conversations in the room. And that's something I'm already so proud of this company for, is choosing to face those issues head on and talk about them, which hopefully is something that will come across on stage and inspire the same in our audience.
So much of the way that we tell the story of the civil rights movement or of any kind of American change is usually centered around one figure, as though one person did something all by themselves. And this play does a really good job of showing just how much it takes on behalf of everyone, from, I don't want to say the lowest of the low, from every walk of our society to actually make anything happen.
It's really fascinating how you think you've had the conversation, you think you've dealt with the topic, and then you realize, actually, no, maybe we haven't. And like he's saying, literally in the room, you genuinely have the conversation of some of this stuff and how it affects people even today. You know, this movement for civil rights, the opposition to civil rights, it still exists in our society today. Are we actually talking about those things? You know, especially when we think, and I think we all felt that, you know, that, oh, we've gotten over it. We got over that hump already. No, we haven't. And so like Bryce said, I think it's really important that we feel in the room like we're really having that conversation between our own cast members, because it still exists.
I'm most excited for the audience to experience the civil rights movement, the what was going on back and forth about the Vietnam War, and really to realize they don't have to know anything about history to see this play. They don't have to have seen all the way. This is an emotional roller coaster on its own.
I think that this play just gives a great snapshot into history, and I hope people see how cyclical it can be, and that in order to move forward, we need to take a look back.